Finally, and I want to finish with this, is what can you do from home? Anything we say here tonight, whether it's myself or anyone else, every single thing really hinges on what you're willing to do when you leave here. So I wanted to give you just here we go, a few simple tips that you can use when talking about student activities and talking about their online interactions that you can do when you leave here. They're not difficult at all, but can simply make your student more successful, more engaged, and overall better. And so first is, and we talked about this, be an advocate of activities. Very easy, very simple. Be an advocate of activities. If your student's involved in a sport, that's fantastic. But that means that only for 1/3 of that school year they're engaged. It means only for 1/3 of the year they're engaged. How can you be engaged for longer than that? For students in the room, find something you love. I mean, honestly, if you love something that your student doesn't have a club with, one, select that club, find that club, or two, find a community in your area that supports what you want to do. Next, encourage strong relationships with other active students. Your student's life will be the sum of the 5 lives they choose to interact with most. Your student's income will be the average of the 5 people they associate with most. Students, I do an activity, and we did it at the middle school here today, where I have a couple of dollars, and I kind of demonstrate what you can do with that money. And there's 3 things I know that I can do with money that I could also do with time. I can spend money like I can spend time. I can spend this on a sweet tea from McDonald's, which is delicious, by the way. Or I could also spend my time. I could spend a little bit of this time giving you no valuable information, and you'd have nothing to show for it. Just like I can spend an entire year giving maybe useless information and have nothing to show for it. I can invest this money. I can put this money in my wallet, save it until I have a few other dollar bills and do something better with it. Just like I can invest little bits of time, invest in new relationships, invest in teachers that care, teachers who want to support me. And then the third thing I can do with this money that I could also do with time, and I won't do it because I actually want this dollar, and I did this at the middle school assembly, is I could waste it, in which case I would rip it. I could decide to go out for a club or for a sports team and not show up. And you can waste money like you can waste time. Because some of your students, and what I do is I'll put the dollar bill scattered on the ground, and the students get really offended, like, why in the world did you rip that poor dollar? I would have given it a good home. But you realize that that's only one moment in time, right? A dollar is not a huge deal. It's $1. And so what's interesting, though, is your students go to school how many days a week? 5. How many weeks a month? 4. Meaning that in total your students go to school, I know math is difficult, do the math, ironic. But that means your students go to school 20 days every single month. And what I do with the students, I grab this dollar and then ask them if they would like for me to rip this one as well. And what happens is automatically the mood in the room changes and they're like, don't torture the poor thing. We'll take care of it. And it's interesting because there will be students, like I said, everything you can do with money, you can do with time. There will be students, friends in your son, your daughter's life, who will ask them to waste their time because it's not their time. There are always a few students that want me to rip this 20 because they want to see it happen. It's not their money, they don't care. Your students will have friends in their lives that want them to waste their time on that friend because it's not their time, quite simply put. Find a way to have your students engage and interact with other students who would spend that money, spend that time, the same way for your students they would spend for themselves in an ideal situation. Invest that time wisely. Encourage relationships with students who would do the same. 3 is attend events with your students and show support for their involvement. This is huge. It seems so easy. It seems so easy to support them. And I know we all have busy lives, but simply showing up and supporting your student is one of the greatest things you could truly do. A year ago, I actually played sports all growing up. I actually had the privilege of playing basketball overseas for a US type team. And I cannot tell you enough, just this last year, my dad unfortunately was diagnosed with a brain tumor that's inoperable. And in retrospect, when thinking about it now, I cannot tell you how much I support or appreciated his support at a few of those events, just showing up, being there. And those are things that I will remember forever and really have led me to act more like him as I get older, simply because he supported me. I skipped 4 apparently, but 5 is be familiar with all clubs on your son or daughter's campus. Be familiar with them. Get a list. You can simply call, give them your email address, they'll send you a list. It's not a difficult thing to do. And again, give that list to your son, your daughter. Have them see if anything interests them. And if not, call the school back and suggest a club. 9 out of every 10 schools will create that club on your behalf and your students' behalf within a week or two. Most schools in the United States have an activities director, an ASB coordinator, a student council rep, and their sole job is to get students involved on campus. It's their sole job. And so you call them and you get, again, a list of those clubs. And so that's really the crux of it. Again, helping your student at school by getting them involved in activities, helping your student online, making sure they're protected, and then finally helping your student from home. Doing what you can to support them, to make sure that they're healthy, to make sure they're happy, and to make sure that they're successful. I hope that I was at least somewhat informative. I know I went 3 minutes over where I was supposed to go. But I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys something to latch on to when you went home. So that way you had something you can kind of grip your teeth into and use to help. My information is very simple. My last name can be a mouthful, but it's Backovitch. If you start typing it into Google, it'll fix it for you. But my name again is Scott Backovitch. If you have any questions, I will stick around here. I would love to help answer any questions that I have from all of you. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time. It's very rare that I get a chance to speak at 2 schools and then stay for the night and actually talk to parents. And so again, if you guys have any questions, I would be more than willing to field those questions. But again, thank you for taking time out of your night to be here, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you. I really appreciate it.